Okay, so this time we focus on e-governance and local government units. No? So e-governance in the context of local government units refers to the application of information and communication technologies to improve the delivery of public services, enhance administrative efficiency, and promote citizen engagement at the local level. No? Local government plays a vital role, no, in providing essential services to citizens such as healthcare, education, sanitation, and infrastructure development. E-governance initiative empower LGUs, no, to leverage digital technologies to streamline administrative processes, no, increase transparency, and foster greater citizen participation in the local governance. One of the key aspects of e-governance for LGUs is the digitization of administrative procedures and service delivery channels. By implementing online platforms and digital portals, local government can automate processes such as tax payments, permits, no, applications, and service requests, no, reducing paperwork, minimizing bureaucracy, and improving the efficiency of the service delivery. So e-governance enables local governments to enhance transparency and accountability in their operations. So in making information about government programs, budgets, and expenditure readily accessible to the public through online platforms, LGUs, no, can promote greater transparency and build trust, no, among citizens. Additionally, digital records and data analytics tools can facilitate monitoring and evaluation of government performance, enabling local officials to make data-driven decisions and allocate resources more effectively. E-governance, of course, also facilitates citizen engagement and participation in local government processes. So through online forums, mobile application, and social media channels, LGUs can solicit feedback from citizens, conduct public consultation, and involve stakeholders in the policy discussion and decision-making process. This direct engagement, no, empowers, no, citizens to voice their concern, contribute ideas, and collaborate with local governments to address community needs and priorities. Okay, let us play the video presentation provided by Ms. Trina.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Good day, Podine. Good day, classmates. I am here to present to you my assigned topic for our subject MPA 208, E-Governance for Development Administration. My assigned topic is Chapter 7, E-Governance and Local Government Units, or with the advancement of ICT at information communication technology, it is very evident right now that we are in the digital era. Kaya naman the words like e-government, e-governance, it have come into prominence. Kumbaga sa mga damit, itong e-governance na ngayon yung puso. At yun yung ngayong ginagawa ng almost all countries para maging adept sila sa digital era. Why? Why is there a need to do that? Kasi masyado ng madaming technologies in the world. At syempre, yung mga new generations natin right now are more into these technologies. Not to say na hindi effective yung ating mga ginagawa before, but because ito ngayon, yung era kung saan everything is fast-paced, at ito yung makakatulong para mas maibigay natin yung services natin to the public in a more efficient and effective way. Local governance. Before we go to e-governance, let's discuss what is local governance. Local governance refers to the role of formal institutions of local government and its hierarchies, includes informal networks and private and economic organizations, and sets the framework for decision-making processes as well as for the provision of local services. This refers to the governance of the local government itself, which is divided into 3 levels. Yung provinces and independent cities, yung component cities and municipalities, at saka yung mga barangays, all of which are collectively known as local government units. So, ibig sabihin, when we say local governance, this is how the local elected officials govern the local government units. Ito yung mga provinces, cities, municipalities, how these elected officials govern these levels in a way that they are guided by the Local Government Code of 1991 and by Republic Act number 7160. So, pag sinabi natin local governance, ito yung mga nakikita natin ngayon kung paano nagli-lead at kung paano nagtatrabaho mula yung sa ating governor down to the barangay council and of course with the leadership ng punong barangay. So from province down to the grassroots, which is the barangay. E-governance. Ano yung e-governance? Yung e-governance is one of the most innovative initiatives to develop effective governance to promote national development. E-governance or electric governance is the application of information and communication technology or ICT for providing government services, interchange of statistics, communication proceedings, and integration of various independent systems and services. Through the means of e-governance, government services are made available to citizens in a suitable, systematic, and transparent mode. E-governance daw, ito yung pinakamagandang paggamit or gamit ng ICT para mas mai-upgrade natin yung coherence ng ating system, yung productivity, yung efficacy, yung transparency, and even the liability of informational and transactional na mga relationships within the government, between the government agencies at different levels, with the citizens, and with various businesses. This e-governance gives authorization to citizens to access and use information which are available online. Generally, pag sinabi natin e-governance, this uses information and communication technologies at various levels of the government and the public sector to enhance governance itself. May mga theoretical studies na nagawa and it states that e-governance is a procedure of change of the correlation of government with its ingredients, the citizens, the businesses, and its own organs through the use or through the tools of ICT. As per UNESCO naman, ang sabi niya, yung e-governance daw is yung use ng public sector ng ICT in order to upgrade yung information and service delivery, stimulating the involvement of the residents in the decision-making process and making the government more liable and productive. What are the three major elements of e-governance? We have government, we have the common people or the citizens, and we have the business groups or the investor. When we say e-governance, we're talking about its four types. Andyan yung G2C or the government to citizen, andyan yung G2G or the government to government, andyan yung G2B or the government to business, and G2E or the government to employee. Kasi gaya nga ng sinabi natin kanina, when we say e-governance, we're talking about its three elements, yung government, yung citizens, and the businesses. Of e-governance as a government to citizen or the G2C. The government to citizen mentions that government services are acquired by the familiar people. So very obvious na po na with this e-governance, it's how the government would deliver to the public. Most of the government services come under this type of e-governance. Similarly, yung primary aim ng government to citizen is to supply facilities to the citizens. It also helps ordinary people to minimize the time and cost to carry out a transaction. Kasi with this, yung isang citizen, kaya na niya i-retrieve yung mga facilities anytime, anywhere. At the same time, yung spending the administrative fee online is possible na din kasi pwede na rin mag-pay via online. Di ba? May mga services naman na ngayon, public services, government services, which are already done via online, even the payment. Even yung pag-release, pwede na rin online. The facility of government to citizen allows the ordinary citizen to outlast time limitations. It also focuses on geographic land barriers. So, bawa napakalayo mo sa kukuhanan mo, let's say, sa PSA, hindi mo na kailangan yung mamasahe pa just to get there. Pwede nang mag-request online, pwede na rin magbayad online, and then i-deliver na lang via courier. In this approach, the government interacts with citizens using communication mediums such as newspaper, radio, television, at yung pinaka-ginagamit ngayon is the internet. And the government provides a platform for citizens to voice their opinions about government policies and schemes. Diba? May mga hotline, may mga websites for this. So yun, available na siya. So very easy na for the people to connect with the government. Next, the government to business or the G2B. The government to government or G2G. I am sorry, G2B. Yung G2B po natin, government to business, is the interchange of services between government and business firms. With this, yung relationship na titingnan ng e-governance is between the government and the business. In here, G2B provides access to the pertinent forms that are needed to be complied with. It also contains many services interchanged between sectors and government. Similarly, government-to-business type of e-governance provides timely business information. A business organization can have very easy online access to government agencies already. Napakadali na po, less time consuming. G2B plays an important role in business development kasi ito po yung nag-upgrade sa efficiency at sa quality ng communication and transparency ng government projects. Halimbawa po dito yung pagbibid sa mga government projects po, it can already be done online. Kaya transparent, makikita po na din kung paano po, asan yung proseso, paano proseso, ano yung napili, sino yung napili, and all those things po. Government communicates with businesses to facilitate the growth of the economy. Companies can directly acquire knowledge about new policies, taxes, regulations, and credit facilities. Moreover, governments promote online business practices to save time at saka cost at saka para makakollect na rin ng real-time data from the government. Next po na type of e-governance is the government-to-government or the G2G. This mentions the interaction between different government departments, firms, and agencies. At ito yung nagpapa-increase sa efficiency ng government processes. In G2G, yung mga government agencies, they can share the same database using online communication. Kaya naman, halimbawa sa munisipyo namin, yung assessor's office at treasury office, they have this database already na magka-connect na po. Kaya hindi na nila kailangan magpuntaan sa isa't isa o yung mga client kasi makikita na mismo doon sa system nila kung ano yung status ng isang lupa o isang property. G2G services can increase international discretion and relations kasi syempre, even with the outside government agencies or international government agencies, they can already have an access. Kaya nga meron po mga MOA na ginagawa po na syempre may Data Privacy Act. So meron silang MOA na kung ano pwede ma-access, kung sino pwede maka-access sa mga files, specific files. G2G services can also provide a safe and secure interrelationship between domestic and foreign governments. Thus, yung G2G type of e-governance, it builds a universal database for all members to upgrade the service. Yung G2G model creates a landscape for communication between government and government organizations, departments, and agencies. The aim is to integrate all channels of governance with the help of ICT tools for a paperless, corruption-free, and sustainable system. The last type of e-governance is the government-to-employee, which is the internal part of the G2G or the government-to-government section. It aims to bring employees together and improvise a knowledge sharing. In this type of e-governance, government agencies can share the same database using online, in this type of e-governance po, nagkakaroon na po ng online facilities to the employees. Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, pag nag-a-apply sila monthly, pag i-review nila yung salary payment record, i-check nila yung balance sa kanilang holidays. Hindi na sila kailangan pumunta pa sa supervisor or sa HR to ask for this kasi available na siya online or on their database na nasi-share na po across all the department or agencies within that local government unit. The G2E sector yields human resource training and development. Thus, this becomes the correlation between the employee and the government institutions itself. With this model, the government can communicate with the employees and companies. Yung mga personal information of employees, napakadali ng makita ng ating mga boss o ng HR kasi andun naka-database, hindi na yung mag-check ka pa sa mga files, sa mga papel. With this, organizations already can carry out employee-related tasks such as pinaka-usual dito yung payroll, yung mga bank loans, medical plans, and even yung pension plans. Diba? Pwede na po yung sa GSIS o pwede na po siya. For all these types of e-governance to be efficiently and effectively carried out, kailangan po syempre ang isang klase ng governance which is smart. What is smart governance? This is the process of utilizing modern technologies and ICT itself to create a collaborative, communication-based, transparent, and sustainable environment for the citizens and government. With this po, nakakatulong po siya para magkaroon ng isang good governance sa isang local government unit. Paano magagawa itong smart governance? Smart governance, this implies simple, moral, accountable, responsive, and transparent form of governance. When we say simple, this means yung simplification of rules, regulations, and mga proseso ng government through the use of ICTs, kaya mas nagiging user-friendly siya. Moral, it connotes emergence of an entirely new system of ethical values in the political and administrative machinery. Technology interventions improve the efficiency of mga anti-corruption agencies, police, judiciary, and others. Accountable. When we say accountable, this facilitates the design, development, and implementation ng isang effective information system at performance measurement mechanism para ma-ensure ang pagiging accountable ng public service functionaries. Responsive. When we say responsive, this streamlines yung processes to speed up service delivery and makes the system more responsive. And lastly, transparent. Ibig sabihin, it bringing information confined in the government documents to the public domain already. Thus, yung mga proseso and functions becomes transparent, which in turn, magkakaroon ng equity and rule of law in responses of the administrative agencies. Ibig sabihin, with smart governance, mas nagiging efficient and effective yung pagbigay ng public service in a way na transparent siya. Kaya mas nagiging user-friendly siya ngayon sa citizens. Mas nagkakaroon ng tiwala ngayon yung mga tao sa gobyerno. What are the advantages of e-governance? In a nutshell, ito yung advantages ng e-governance kung kaya ito is talagang pinupush na lahat ng national governments all around the globe. Of course, with e-governance, there's better security. It becomes more simple and efficient. The systems becomes more simple, efficient. There's transparency and accountability. There's easy maintenance, of course. Instant access, click of a finger lang. Expanded reach of governance, mas malayo kasi syempre lahat ng mga yung may internet na hindi na kailangan magpamasahe pa o ng sasakyan para ma-reach natin lahat ng citizens. Better service for citizens, and it becomes cash effective as well. So, ito yung maganda with e-governance. With this, nagkakaroon ng citizen empowerment kasi nagkakaroon sila ng access to information, nagkakaroon ng more efficient na government management, and nagkakaroon ng less corruption in the administration dahil nga sa merong transparency. So, ito yung kinaganda ng e-governance. Pero kung may kinaganda ang e-governance, meron din naman tayong disadvantages of e-governance. Una na dito, yung lack of equality in public access. Of course, it's one of the main problems that we have right now kasi hindi lahat is may access sa internet or hindi lahat stable ang internet. Second, reliability of information. Citizens may not be able already to discern between accurate and inaccurate information, which could lead to misinformation and biased public opinions. Kasi di ba, dahil nandun na siya sa website, nandun na siya sa internet, ang daming po pwedeng mag-upload ng mga news. Mahirap na ngayon mag-discern kung fake news ba siya o hindi. Third, hidden agendas. There's a concern that government groups may have hidden agendas that can influence and bias public opinions. E-government systems must be designed to prevent this from happening and promote it instead on transparency and accountability. Fourth, impacts on economic, social, and political factors. The implementation and design of e-government can have potential implications on these factors. E-government can lead to the disintermediation of the government and citizens, which can impact power dynamics and potentially lead to social unrest. Ibig sabihin daw, po pwede kasi dahil halos lahat ng sa internet na magkakaroon ngayon ng less relationship o less face-to-face interaction yung government with the citizens. Kapag magkaroon ng impact nun sa power dynamics at magkaroon ng social unrest. Vulnerability to cyber attacks. E-government systems are vulnerable to this kind of attacks, which can compromise the sensitive information. And of course, pag na-compromise yung insensitive information, maapektuhan yung tiwala ng taong bayan. 6 is the cost. Although a large amount of money is spent on the development and implementation of e-governance, yung outcome at effect nito is often difficult to gauge or unsatisfactory. Technology kasi, it keeps changing, di ba? Tapos, mabilis na may maging obsolete. Thus, it can prohibit the effectiveness of e-governance. The adoption of any technology platform or a system, it needs to be assessed carefully and balanced, not based on what is needed now, but also what the future requires para hindi pa palit-palit ng sistema o na platform na gagamitin kasi hindi naman po pwedeng lagi tayong nag-aayos ng system. Ang kailangan ginagawa is nag-upgrade. So yun sinasabi sa cost. But of course, with that comes a bigger budget. Yun yung isa ding concern ng mga LGUs kasi wala silang ganong kalaking budget para sa ganong kalaking requirement, monetary requirement para maging digitalized lahat sa sistema nila. Inaccessibility. E-government sites that provide web-based access and support often do not offer the potential to reach many users. Why? Especially yung mga nasa remote areas, yung may low literacy levels and they live on the poverty line incomes. Siyempre, ito yung mga nasa poverty level na paano nga nila ma-access yung internet o paano nila maiintindihan lahat, hindi naman lahat na sa Pilipino. O ang ng laptop o ng cellphone is hindi sa kanila ganun ka-adept. So, isa yon sa problema din ng e-governance. Next. Let's go to the enhancement of the local government operations through e-governance. Kasi how does the Philippines enhance the local government operations through e-governance? Yung Bureau of Local Government Development or the BLGD of the Development of the Interior and Local Government or DILG is mandated to enhance the technical, financial, and administrative capabilities of local government units para makadevelop ng computer-based administrative system under its improved local operations through e-governance or e-load, which is formerly called the computerization of LGU administrative systems or CLAS project. Yung project na to, it has been categorized into 3, which supports and facilitates yung administrative and planning operation ng LGU para mas maging efficient yung governance and public service niya. Itong class project or known now as ILOG is designed to help the LGUs to enhance their capability to be able to satisfy yung requirements ng decentralization and local autonomy through the adoption of IT or information technology. It is a practical approach to data or information management in support to decision-making, problem-solving, and seeking opportunities with the ultimate goal of effective public service delivery. Ano ba ang goal of ILOG or ng yung enhancement ng local government natin, yung ILOG? It is to develop and strengthen management capabilities of LGUs in acquiring, handling, organizing, securing, and disposing of relevant data for improved local government operations. Specifically, ang ILOG is to develop or upgrade yung computer-based administrative systems na present natin sa mga LGUs ngayon for local governance operation. And at the same time, it is to provide technical and consultancy services to LGUs on the establishment of these systems and procedures. Met sa projects sa ILOG na kanina na-mention na nga natin. Ano-ano itong mga to? First is the ELMP with a view to further improve the delivery of basic services through IT. Ibig sabihin, it will facilitate the flow of information to all levels of the organizational structure. Kaya mas maisiserve niya yung enabling mechanism for forecasting, decision-making, operational planning, monitoring, financial planning, and even manpower planning. Therefore, this allows yung mayor or the governor and other interested parties to act accordingly based on the availability ng accurate and relevant information. Example nito ngayon is yung Management Information System or the MIS. When we say Management Information System, this is the study of how people use technology to manage information, which includes both the hardware and software. At saka yung PMIS or the Personal Management Information System, which is the Human Resources Information System used exclusively by the Human Resources staff. So ito yung dalawang system na dinevelop ng BLGD or ng BILG para mas assess yung mga LGU for the efficiency and effectiveness ng kanilang operation. We must remember na yung Local Government Code of 1991 kasi ang vision niya for the LGU is to be self-reliant and effective partners in attainment of national development. So it is believed that with e-governance, dahil yung mga data information already are online at mas maayos, mas organized, mas systematic, then it would help in better governance and in a more sound decision making. The second sub-project of ILOG is the Legislative Tracking and Performance Monitoring Project or LTPMP. Yung challenge kasi sa lahat ng government unit always is for the continuous improvement in the basic delivery of services nagko-compel para to keep pace with the changing environment brought about by the digital economy. Kaya naman yung mga sanggunian, since kami yung legislative body ng LGU, we are mandated to enact ordinances, mag-approve ng resolution at mag-appropriate ng funds. Yan yung tatlong pinaka main responsibility namin para ma-promote yung general welfare ng LGU mismo at ng aming mga residente. Dahil dito, yung BLGD or yung DIL at yung DILG, ginawa itong LTPMP para mas strengthen yung capability namin sa sanggunian na mas ma-discharge namin yung duties namin ng mas maayos by having this Sangguniang Information System. Ano yung Sangguniang Information System? With this, mas matatrack namin yung mga performances at saka yung accomplishments namin. And at the same time, makakatulong ito para makita namin kung ano yung mga resolution or ordinances na kailangan ma-amend or ma-update at kung ano yung mga kulang pa na kailangan namin maayos. In this way, mas nagiging transparent din ang sanggunian sa mga tao kasi may access na. Of course, open to the public ang sessions ng mga sanggunian, pero with this kasi hindi na nila kailangang hintayin yung session para malaman kung ano nangyayari. They can access already via internet, not only the present na mga ginagawa or session ng sanggunian, but even the past. So maganda to Sanggunian information system natin. Ngayon, if you will ask me, being into Sanggunian, are we using this? Partially. Sad to say, partially. Ang nagagamit pa lang namin on this system is yung lahat ng ordinances, resolutions, is nasa computer na siya, nasa may database na kami. Kaya kapag may kailangan, madali na maghanap, madali na rin i-print out. So both yung pinaka-resolution at yung approved resolution andun na. Andun din yung mga accreditations, syempre sa mga CSOs or NGOs, andun din, so mas madaling hanapin. So, yun pa lang. Bakit partial? Kasi itong LTPMP is hindi pa siya ganun ini-implement sa Region 1. Based on my research, more on sa Sorsogon area, Visayas region, yung unang umaayos, nagta-trial nito. And then from there, saka is spread out to all other provinces and municipalities. Yung third sub-project ng ILOG is the ELRGP or Enhancing Local Revenue Generation Project. Ano ba to? Yung reduction, okay, the reduction of the Internal Revenue Allotment or ERA, erroneous tax assessment and collection system, and the greater demands by the constituents for better services are some of the problems that faces our local government units today. Kaya with this problem, it requires the government be creative in finding ways para mas ma-increase yung ating revenue collection. Our government, though, is faced with the challenge of maximizing yung society's contribution to the government with minimal efforts and resources. Kaya naman madaming innovative measures and changes na ginagawa para i-ensure ang effective monitoring of taxes. There's a need to correctly and efficiently assess, record, monitor, and collect taxes. So to address this, there's a need to leverage the use of IT in tax processing and collection. Kaya naman, the BLGD of the DILG in its mandate to assist the LGUs in their local administration has developed systems that will enhance their capability in revenue generation. Ito nga po ang ELRGP. This project has two software solutions. Yung BPLS, yung Business Permit and Licensing System, ito yung pinaka-ginagamit po ngayon. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng mga one-stop shop. Diba? Mas madali na po ngayon ang mag-renew ng mga business permit dahil po dito. Even to apply, mas madali na rin po kasi one-stop shop because of this BPLS system. And then we have the Real Property Tax Assessment and Collection System or the RPTACS, na talaga naman itong dalawa nakakatulong to improve yung business tax administration and collection system natin na kailangan kasi it's very obvious naman po yung taxes ang bloodline po ng any LGU. So with e-governments, ano yung best practices na pwede na natin ipagmayabang na ginagawa sa Pilipinas? First is the E-Government Master Plan or the EGMP 2022. This serves as the blueprint for a harmonized government information system. This plan, it outlines yung intent ng DICT to develop the country's e-government systems through the digital transformation of basic services. With this, nagkakaroon ng creation of a network and collaborative environment for improved public service delivery. Second, as the e-governance, I'm sorry po na hindi ko na ilagay dito, that's E-Governance Act or House Bill number 7327. This is a consolidation of the 21 related measures which was highlighted by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. as one of his priority measures in his first SONA. With this, Ang aim is to accelerate the build-up of digital infrastructure in the country through ICT po. In this way, the Filipinos will have a better and efficient government, easier government to transact with. E-travel. Ang e-travel, this is a one-stop system. Okay? That one-stop electronic system or one-stop electronic travel declaration system that combines all e-travel that currently is available in 10 international airports and 5 international seaports. So far, 7.3 million passengers na ang na-accommodate ng e-travel. Ano ba to? With e-travel kasi, passengers would only need to complete their declaration in a single app versus having to fill out multiple documents in the past, such as the arrival card, local airport or seaport forms, tourism forms, customs forms, at saka yung mga help desk form. So, eto hindi na yung sulat ka ng sulat kasi nandun na siya sa system which is already available to the international airports. Ito nga, to sa 10 international airports and 5 international seaports. And then next we have also the eGovPay. Ano yung eGovPay? This is a secured one-stop government payment gateway available for users of digital payment systems such as online and digital banks, e-wallets, e-cards, cash payment systems, and kiosks. With this, it helps government simplify. Basically, it helps the government to simplify payment processing. And it also reduces cost. Siyempre, kasi online na. So talagang bumababa yung cost natin. Hindi na kailangan na masyado madaming tao, cashier, due to improved data management as it supports a broad range of payment methods. Madami ng paraan para magbayad. The service would provide easy integration, automated reports, transparency, and of course, reduced cost. Ang eGov Cloud is a government's cloud first policy that promotes cloud computing as a preferred technology for government administration and the delivery of government services. So instead of government agencies having to use multiple data system or centers, they will instead have access to a centralized cloud system na standard, cost-effective, secure, efficient, compliant, and will allow for better decision-making. Ano naman yung next? Yung e-report. Yung e-report is the People's Feedback Mechanism mobile app. Basically, it allows the public to file a report or feedback to the government via online. So with this, pwedeng pumili yung user ng 8 categories kung ano yung report niya. Red tape, overpricing, child abuse, women abuse, accident, fire, crime, scam, and even yung pang-9 category, other concerns. Okay? So mas madali na po ang mag-report at humingi ng tulong ngayon kasi online. And then, of course, we have the eGovPH. This allows the public to access government services and information. This app is a Philippines' first one-stop shop platform for local national government services that will streamline processes, transactions, and bring a total ease of doing business. Ito yung sasabi ko po kanina na one-stop shop na mas madali na nga na mag-renew, o mag-apply for business permits, magbayad po ng taxes, and all those things po. And of course, we have ELGU. Ano po ba ang ELGU? This is a one-stop system that combines all the services of the LGU, such as business permit licensing, notice of violations, yun nga po yung notification system, community tax, health certs, local civil registry, business tax, and real property tax po. Ang objective po ng ELGU is to provide the Filipinos with a comprehensive online platform that serves as a centralized hub for LGU system automation and e-services, offering a diverse array of services. So ang pinaka-aim nito is to streamline the process of doing business, ensuring convenience and efficiency. And of course, we have meron din po tayong ibang mga best practices. We have the e-tourism, e-business, e-health, e-government, e-commerce, e-services, e-apostille, e-finance, e-learning, e-passport, and e-transport. Magaganda po lahat itong mga to. Ito talaga mga best practices. But sad to say po, these best practices are not being implemented all throughout the Philippines. Kasi syempre po, hindi pa ganun ka-able lahat ng LGUs na i-apply ito. At the same time, the DICT, the BLGT, under DDILG po are still in the process of strengthening these systems or these apps po para mas makatulong sa taong bayan. Okay? How can we strengthen the LGU capacity for e-governance initiatives? Through these things po, through training and skills development. Siyempre, kailangan po is continuous ang ating learning on this. Kailangan may literacy in the digital realm. And then, second, we have establishing e-governance units. Of course, we have to establish specialized e-governance units inside the LGU itself to supervise and direct the development, implementation, and management of the e-governance projects. Third, collaborative approach. Of course, with this, mapapa-strengthen kasi LGUs are encouraged to work together and share their knowledge. Public-private partnerships. With this, the LGUs are able to create connections with organizations sa corporate sector, sa technological corporations, and even in the academe to be able to gain access to specialized knowledge and resources. Next po, building digital infrastructure. With this, kapag may investment po sa mga ganitong bagay, then mas kagaya po ng data centers or high-speed internet connections, then mas nagiging solid yung ating e-governance structures. And then next, we have the data governance and management. Siyempre, nakakapag-establish ng more trustworthy na relationship. Ito kasi nagiging transparent po lahat via online. There's a participatory approach, of course, kasi everybody can have an access, so they can also give their feedbacks and their comments or suggestions. E-governance policy framework. This naman creates all-encompassing policy framework that will serve as a guide for the implementation of e-governance at the municipal level. And then next, we have the use of open source solutions. With this, kasi when it comes to e-governance projects, di ba, una nating iniisip, dapat isipin, ay yung pag-utilize ng mga software and solutions. Open source platforms ngayon, yung pinaka-cost effective, transparent, and adaptable kaysa sa mga closed source alternatives. And then next, we have the project management and governance. In order for e-governance efforts to be successful, the project management methods and governance structures must be efficiently established as well. And then next, we have the e-governance roadmap. Ito yung strategic plan for e-governance long-term implementation that takes into account yung economic growth ng LGU. Second to the last is promoting digital citizenship. Of course, the citizens should be made aware of the services that are available through e-governance, and their active engagement should be encouraged. And last item to strengthen kung paano natin last step to strengthen the LGU capacity for e-governance initiatives is the continuous monitoring and evaluation. Hindi dapat natatapos sa pagbigay lang ng sistema o ng app. Kailangan may continuous monitoring and evaluation para makita effective ba siya, may kailangan bang i-correct, may kailangan bang i-update. Local government in the Philippines can build the capacity to effectively implement e-governance initiatives by concentrating on these steps or on these techniques. Kasi with this, kapag nagawa nila to, then it will result in improved service delivery, increased transparency, and expanded citizen participation at the local level. Topic ko po is the collaborative governance and interagency coordination. It's very important po na for e-governance to be successful, kailangan there's a collaborative governance and interagency coordination. Ano bang collaborative governance? According to Ansel and Gash in 2008, ang collaborative governance is a governing arrangement where one or more public agencies directly engage non-state stakeholders in a collective decision-making process that is formal, consensus-oriented, and deliberative, and that aims to make or implement public policy or manage public programs or assets. Ito kasi yung collaborative governance is a participatory approach to decision-making and problem-solving kasi ini-involve mo lahat ng stakeholders. In collaborative governance, merong say ang stakeholders natin sa ginagawa, kaya nagkakaroon ng cooperative manner to identify ano pa yung mga goals natin. How can we share resources? How can we share the responsibilities? How can we develop policies, programs, and initiatives para mas ma-address natin yung mga problems na meron tayo ngayon and at the same time, mas ma-boost natin ang e-governance. With collaborative governance approach, this emphasizes inclusivity, transparency, and consensus building with the goal of fostering sustainable solutions and enhancing the overall well-being of communities and society as a whole. As the interagency coordination. Sa interagency coordination po, it involves a process in which two or more organizations representing different agencies to come together to solve a specific problem or need at a specific need. Ito yung talagang nagsasama-sama sila, yung mga agencies na to, para makapag-address ng isang problema. Makapag-solve ng isang problema. Dito talaga ini-involve lahat ng stakeholders. Ano bang maganda? Ano bang ngayon kung magsama-sama at magkaroon ng collaborative governance and interagency coordination? Of course, with that, magkakaroon ng holistic problem solving. Kasi nga, magkakasama kayong from different sectors, then mas makikita ninyo yung kabuuan, hindi lang yung isang area. There's an improved service delivery kasi it's already parang hindi na to isang team na lang, sama-sama na to. And then there's an enhanced data sharing. There's an resource optimization kasi na ma-maximize natin yung paggamit sa resources available instead na magkaroon ng agawan. There's innovation and knowledge sharing. And of course, with all this, nagkakaroon ng mas malaki ng public trust and accountability. Okay? So maganda na magkaroon ng collaborative governance and interagency coordination. Ito yung talagang isinasama lahat, kasama ang lahat. And then, what are the strategies for successful collaborative governance and interagency coordination? Of course, kailangan clear ang communication, kailangan clear ang goals. Dapat there's a leadership and a commitment to it. There should be memorandums of understanding, mga MOA po to o MO para mas malinaw at mas binding ang partnerships. There's a data sharing protocols. Of course, there's a data privacy act, kaya kailangan mas malinaw at mas maayos ang protocols. Cross-agency training, kailangan na iintindihan at kahit paano alam ng iba't ibang agency paano nag-ooperate ang isang ahensya. Joint projects and task forces. There's a regular evaluation and feedback, which is very important. There's flexibility. There should be flexibility and adaptability. And of course, inclusivity. Hindi po pwedeng kung sino lang gusto mong kasama. Okay? And with all this present, then magiging ma-ensure natin na there would be a successful collaborative governance and interagency coordination, which will actually promote e-governance to its fullest. Let's go to cybersecurity and data privacy in e-governance. Ano ba cybersecurity? Okay? When we say cybersecurity, to yung practice of developing electronic information by mitigating information risk and full vulnerabilities. Tawag dito, information technology security. It protects sensitive information data. It creates network systems and programs para ma-protect ito from cyber attacks. But ano ba yung mga different threats to cybersecurity? Of course, we have here the cyber attack, unauthorized network or system access by a third party resulting in data manipulation and loss. Second, we have the phishing attack. It is a social engineering attack where a hacker impersonates a trusted person and sends fake emails to their targets. Actually, lahat na to, it's very obvious na nagagawa na siya. It's very rampant, so very familiar po tayo. We have the SQL, or the structural query language. This occurs when a hacker injects malicious code into a database-driven website, causing the server to reveal sensitive and vital information. Tapos, we have the cybercrime. This is a criminal activity done by hackers, financial gain. Next, we have the cyber terrorism. When we say cyber terrorism, this involves using the internet to carry out violent acts that might threaten or result in loss of lives or intense bodily harm. And then we have the malware attack. It is a type of malicious software that can infect computers and devices. We have the denial of service attack. This prevents users from accessing a system or service. Ransomware attack. This encrypts files or systems and demands a ransom to decrypt them. And then we have the man-in-the-middle attack. This is where an attacker intercepts communications between two parties. It's very important that we protect government data because, of course, government data is an important and confidential information that is not for all to see, okay? Because it may compromise the safety of a nation. Okay, it's very important that government strengthen our cyber security measures. Pero paano ba natin magagawa to? First, through technology innovation. Because of course, this would protect ideas and intellectual properties from theft or being copied without permission. Cloud transformation, this allow organizations to be more agile and responsive to a change. And then, syempre, kailangan may cybersecurity dun sa operation ng business mismo. Okay, lahat ng business operations na using internet, dapat may cybersecurity measures sila. Dapat ma-maintain yung customer and employee trust at all times. There must be a securing of financial position of the organization. The government must stay strong amidst competition. Of course, madaming competition, madaming mga nag-a-attempt na mas ma-upgrade yung kanilang system. Kaya dapat mas matatag, okay? Mas guarded ang ating mga systems in e-governance. And also, of course, kailangan may mga fines and penalties para ma-strengthen yung ating cyber security measures at kailangan ma-avoid natin itong mga to. And then, lastly, we have to preserve the organization's ability to function. So these are all the ways or the strategies how a government can strengthen ang kanilang cyber security measures. So just to give an eye view of the cybersecurity in the Philippine government. Okay? Noong Feb 2020, nagkaroon ng survey which declared the Philippine government, the business process outsourcing industry or the BPO, the edu sector, the financial sector, the health sector, and the telecommunication industries as the key vertical markets for IT. Dahil dito, nagkakaroon din ng growth in the e-payment and fintech platforms. Thus, the Department of Information, Communications, and Technology, na may mention ko na po kanina ang DICT, it's now on the rollout of cybersecurity infrastructure for all the national agencies and LGUs. Ano ba itong National Cybersecurity Plan 2022? It is one of the priority areas ng DICT. Na ginawa nila agad to immediately institute, diba, yung formulation ng national cybersecurity, to immediately institute yung formulation nito to address yung urgency to protect the nation's critical infrastructures, government networks, and even each and every Filipino using the internet. So it encompasses lahat ng mga areas na kailangan ma-cover para ma-ensure yung protection ng ating mga e-governance infrastructures, government networks, and even the Filipinos who are using the internet. Bakit siya naging priority? First, because of RA 10175, known as the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2020. This constituted the creation of Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center. This is also because of RA 10172, which is known as the Data Privacy Act, which constituted the National Privacy Commission, or the NPC. And lastly, because of RA 10844. This is the creation of the DICT, which was passed by the Philippine Congress in May 23, 2016. What are the goals of the National Cybersecurity Plan? To assure the continuous operation of the nation's critical infrastructure and public and military networks, to implement cyber resiliency measures, to enhance the ability to respond to threats before, during, and after attacks, to ensure effective coordination between law enforcement agencies, and to have a cybersecurity educated society. What's the data privacy? Lahat tayo ngayon naririnig at alam na itong data privacy. When we say data privacy, this focuses on issues related to collecting, storing, and retaining data, as well as the transfer of data within applicable regulations and laws. Pero yung laging nakakabit with data privacy is the data security, which is actually the protection of data against unauthorized access, loss, or corruption throughout the data lifecycle. With the data privacy, madaming challenges. Okay? Kasi syempre, unang dito, yung privacy is an afterthought. Kasi syempre, una is yung pag-create ng mga technological innovations, hindi agad na-consider yung privacy. There's a poor data visibility. There's too much data. Pwede namang more. There's a strive to have more. Pero kailangan nating bear in mind that not more is always better. There are too many devices and there are too many regulations. Ito yung challenges ng data privacy na meron. Kaya naman gumawa ang government natin ng paraan para ma-address ang challenges na to. Kasi maganda naman ang data privacy because it lowers storage costs. It's for better data use, it's for better business reputation and brand, and for regulatory compliance. So, paano mapoprotect ng individuals yung data privacy niya? You have to select strong words, strong passwords, and change them frequently. You have to use multi-factor authentication or biometric identification for important accounts. You don't just click links and buttons with emails or even sa messenger. Avoid protecting PII that's unnecessary or not required. Use malware tools and keep those tools updated, and use only trusted apps and websites. Huwag tayong pasok sa website. As for organizations, they can protect their data privacy through by collecting as little data as possible to accomplish a business task. Require strong authentication and MFA, understand data sources, uses, and storage locations. Organizations must access monitoring and logging to track data access. Organizations must use encryption and other security technologies to protect data at rest and emotion. Organizations must back up data and test restoration. An organizations must ensure any third-party storage providers share data privacy requirements and techniques. And lastly, organizations must regularly educate employees, partners, and customers about data privacy guidelines. Lahat ng ito naka-embody sa Data Privacy Act of 2012, or commonly known as Republic Act number 10173. This aims to protect the fundamental right to privacy of communication while ensuring free flow of information to promote innovation and growth, and the state's inherent obligation or the country's inherent obligation to ensure that personal information in communication system in government and in private sector are secured and protected. DPA was passed in accordance with the Philippines Agreement under ASEAN Vision 2020 and at the urging of the growing business process outsourcing industry. The law was modeled after the Data Protection Directive. What are the areas covered by the TPA? The areas covered by the TPA, ito yung if a person, either individual or an institution, is involved in the processing of personal data is located in the Philippines. If the act or practice involves personal data of a Philippine citizen or resident, if the processing or personal data is done in the Philippines, or if the act, practice, or processing of personal data is done by an entity with links to the Philippines, subject to international law and committee. But how do we comply? Okay, I'm sorry, a typo error po. How do we comply with the Data Privacy Act? First, through registration of data processing systems. Kailangan naka-register po. There should be a notification of automated processing operations. There must be a data protection officer. There must be a data breach response team. There must be the adoption of data protection policies. There must be an annual report of the summary of documented security incidents and personal data breaches. And of course, there must be a compliance with the other requirements as provided or as mandated by the NPC or the National Power or NPC po. So before I end po my report, let me leave you po with this quotation. The beauty of e-governance is that a few keystrokes can bring smiles on a million faces. Aminin man po natin o hindi, kahit na anong generation man tayo na ipanganak, napakaganda po ng e-governance because it can really make the lives of each and every citizen very easy. Kasi everything, lahat ng public services is very easy already to have an access or to gain. Parang hindi na gaya ng dati, ang daming proseso, ang daming oras, ang daming araw na kailangang i-google kapag meron kayong gustong ma-attain o ma-achieve o makuha na isang public service o isang need natin na ang makakapag-provide ay ang government. With e-governance, kapag ito po ay na-implement at na-strengthen at talaga na-i-establish natin, di po ba ang ganda, isang pindot lang po natin, andun na yung kailangan natin. So that means kapag andun na, wala tayong stress, walang pressure, walang problema, walang pila, walang additional gastos, then na-attain natin yung mga public needs natin, yung mga kailangan natin from the government in a way na nakangiti tayo. Kaya mas napagkakatiwala at mas mapagkakatiwala yung government. So, I hope that e-governance can really be established here in the Philippines na sana talagang ma-implement siya, na sana yung mga challenges sa e-governance ma-address na in a long-term scenario para talagang maramdaman na natin at ma-experience na natin yung mga magagandang maibibigay o yung advantages ng e-governance sa atin. So with that, thank you very much, classmates. Okay? Very much po sa pakikinig. I hope I was able to explain well po ang aking lesson po, ang aking assigned topic po, which is the e-governance and local governance units. Yun lamang po. Thank you very much, Dean. Thank you very much, classmates. And let's see each other po sa susunod po na meeting. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, so e-governance initiative can promote inclusivity and accessibility for all members of the community. So by ensuring that online services are as accessible to individuals with disabilities in those in rural or marginalized areas, LGUs can bridge the digital divide and ensure that no one is left behind in the digital age. Additionally, e-governance can empower traditional marginalized groups such as women, youth, and indigenous communities to participate more actively in the local governance process. So, successful implementation of e-governance initiative, of course, requires adequate infrastructure, resources, and capacity building. No? So I think that's it for this topic.